By the way, I was also misinformed about Michael SAS's DVD sales, which was a major factor in this. The hyperscalers are the ones who might be overly combative. Perhaps these businesses, aside from Apple, are taking on too much. You're talking about the JP Morgan strategist. I am aware that his recent writing, which called into doubt the premise we have been debating, was quite devastating. The statement, "The emperor had few clothes," essentially raised the identical issue I raised at the beginning of the performance. Will the market want to retaliate once more? Will there be an update? As our viewers are aware, we frequently return to the same topics when necessary because they are the most crucial ones in the market. Generative AI and its potential uses. This concept has existed for a while, ever since the Sequoia guy wrote that note a while back, stating, "This is the number I'm coming up with, and this is what you'd need to see in terms of generative AI actually making a return that made sense for this number." However, I had a meeting with Jeff, the outstanding CEO of Medtronic, this morning. They rang the opening bell on their 75th birthday, which is why I say that. Jeff mentioned colonoscopies, which is one of the things he highlighted that I believe is incredibly important. They have a standard version and an AI version, he said. Half of the malignant polyps found by their AI version are missed by the normal version. We continue to receive these relatively unique cases with Medtronic. The other week, a paper discussing the mapping of all the possible causes of cancer was published in Nature. David, perhaps we simply do not yet have enough use cases. Jensen Huang would probably say, "Guys, we've had this discussion since Sequoia wrote that note, if he were present. But really, nobody we speak to, you and I do, of course, occasionally speak offset, does not agree that artificial intelligence will revolutionize the world. Isn't what they all say the same? No matter how long it takes or what shape it takes. I believe this to be true for every CEO I've encountered. Who will be the beneficiaries in the end is the only question." Once more, a lot of people bring up topics like what you mentioned about colonoscopies and Medtronic, but also drug discovery, how I can significantly reduce the time required to develop a new medication and what it means. However, Jim, will investors remain in wait-and-see mode till we see these consumer applications? Even worse, nobody seems to have as much faith in the consumer AI/PC industry as we did. Customers still don't appear to understand the value proposition. Why not? I mean, I don't really need a PC to use ChatGPT. I can install it on my phone. I'll say this, David, if you want to return to the notion that you should be wary about AI, because everyone else is, does anyone ever feel secure enough to not sell Nvidia? Were we able to get there today? Last week, Nvidia was severely impacted. While others claim that the chart is fine, Nvidia remains the Verdun of tech stocks. It's like the First World War. The war you're discussing is one that shifts its focus frequently. You do, I'm sure. This is known as the casualty of the wars. Nvidia has a 3%, 12%, and 6% gain. However, David, it trades similarly to GameStop if you pay attention to the volume. Yes, the youngsters enjoy playing with the many zero-day possibilities it has. "Oh, Grandpa just said that." They'll exclaim. "I wish I were Grandpa," is all I have to say. They alternate between betting on tonight's game and FanDuel. Why not wager on Nvidia's zero-day options? But that makes you a total anachronism. It implies that no one cares about you at all. I just sit next to you, David, so I'm not sure what it says for me. But it's a knockout. I don't currently have Nvidia installed, but I play daily fantasy every day. I started Cooper Kupp, Saquon Barkley, and Richardson. Do you realize how amazing I am? Actually, I didn't do that. However, David, the truth is that Nvidia is unable to complete. For Nvidia, the long knives are out. Oh, and it seems that the demand is still there regardless of when you purchase one. However, there are currently concerns that AI spending may decline. Broadcom provided us with excellent stats as well, but it was despised by the public. They hated it, David. All I can say is, holy cow, people wanted to sell that. Hawk Tan, the CEO, is an Eagles fan and watches the show. It was a decrease reminiscent of Supermicro. However, we must note that over the past 12 months, Broadcom's stock has still increased by 60%. It was in the $800 billion market cap club, which is over $800 billion, so I can trust it. But you know it. High memory bandwidth stocks like Micron, which is down almost 45% from its 52-week peak, and AI server brands like Supermicro, Dell, and HP Enterprise are also seeing pressure. Jordan Klein of Mizuho informed clients that there has been a significant decline in buy-side activity in semiconductor equities. Instead, interest in software stocks is rising as sentiment is deteriorating. Speaking about software, companies that are listed under the ticker IGV have fared far better than chips over the last 2 months. Adobe, which is scheduled to release its earnings later this week, has played a significant role in this. Those stocks have performed better. Yet the sell side remains extremely optimistic about the massive chip company Nvidia. Morgan Stanley maintained its overweight recommendation today, with analyst Joseph Moore stating that worries about gross margins are exaggerated. According to him, macroeconomic variables and their possible effects on capital expenditures pose a greater risk. The market needs clarification on 3 things, according to Goldman's technology team, in order to really get the generative AI trade back in action. Nvidia's 2026 financials, additional confirmation that AI models can be made profitable, and evidence that costs can be covered. Gentlemen, I believe it's clear, or I'm not sure. What are your thoughts on this? The thrill and promise of what some refer to as a bubble are over. The main question at this point is whether any of these exposed names will undergo a sideways correction or if more will follow. Totally. Good earnings for the next 2 to 3 years have already been discounted. Look, Nvidia stated bluntly, the Blackwell chip needs to perform the way it has been. However, there are problems with production. Then there is the demand. Double ordering has long been the main concern for investors when it comes to semiconductors. Did Google, Apple, and Meta place excessive orders for chips in case they didn't receive what they required? Suddenly, they are retreating and stating, "Oh, we don't need these." Additionally, you read about the chips being transferred to China and other countries. Yes, we do own Nvidia, and it's an amazing chip. However, you must use it sparingly. After completing all of our requests, it must now display the subsequent growing leg. Perhaps part of the money will be released. Nvidia has already experienced a 20% decline from its peak. It's down more than 30%, I believe. Yes, it cost more than $130. The stock fell 50% in 2022. Therefore, you must own these equities as a component of a diversified portfolio rather than as your sole asset. Because much of its value is already priced in, it's acceptable to hold it, but be ready for the potential that the market as a whole may be rising while Nvidia is sharply declining. Of course, investors are anticipating Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang's speech at the Goldman Sachs Communacopia conference tomorrow at approximately 10:20 a.m. Eastern. More information regarding the costs of the company's next-generation chip is what investors are seeking. I am grinning because I am thinking of Elizabeth Warren. Nvidia made a suggestion during the most recent earnings call that if costs increase, gross margins may fall to the mid-70s. Although the stock has dropped almost 20% from its most recent peak, it has still increased by more than 130% in the last 12 months.